What's up everybody, welcome back to another episode. I hope you guys are doing okay. I feel like it's kind of a weird time to be doing a poster walkthrough, but this is just how I like to decompress, so maybe this will be a new way for you to clear your mind. In the last video, I asked you guys to drop some names of musicians, bands, or artists so that I could do a poster walkthrough, and I got a whopping 1 response, which is fine. The comment was for A Tribe Called Quest, who I love, so this will be a really fun one. I decided to do a lyric poster instead of a gig poster, just because I feel like it'd be a little bit more fun to do. So in the video, I'm going to be walking you through my 6 steps from ideation to final product. The first step being inspiration and research. Depending on your project, this is where you get to explore by looking at like album covers, fan art, or websites like Dribbble, Behance, Designspiration, Pinterest. There are also some really cool Instagram and Twitter design accounts that you can follow and make it a part of your daily feed. Step 2 is sketching. This is where you get to lay out all of your ideas onto paper before you start doing anything on the computer. This helps get ideas flowing and really think out the entire design process. Step 3 is to actually build it. This is the part where you actually do it on the computer, on Illustrator, Photoshop, or whatever software you're using, and turn your sketch into something real. Step 4 is to stare at it for a really long time. I feel like after working on something for so long, it's good to take a step back and just look at it for a while to see if it's actually working. Another good thing to do is ask a friend what they think of your design. Usually they'll be able to look at it and ask you questions about what you're doing, or point out something that might not be working too well. From here, you might want to repeat steps 4 and 5, re-editing until you get to step 6, your final product. For this walkthrough, I'll be using Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, but you can also use these alternatives. I'm also going to be using my Wacom drawing tablet to do some hand lettering, but if you don't have one, don't worry, here are some alternatives. So for my song choice, I decided to go with the Space Program, which is off of this album here. The reason I chose this song is because it's great, obviously, but also it's very powerful and super politically charged, and I really just want to make something that can be used as either a catalyst for creativity or for political protest. What really stands out on this album cover for me is this hand-drawn character up front, as well as this gritty texture in the back that makes it look worn out. On this album cover, the eyes and color scheme really stand out to me, and I want to try and incorporate that into my final poster. I also did some digging on Pinterest and found this really cool type treatment on there. I really like the idea of having a design and having somebody draw all over it, kind of similar to what that first album cover looked like. I think this lettering style mixed with the components we saw on the 2 album covers will make for a really cool poster. Okay, so after lots of time and sketching, I think I have something I'm really excited to work on. Up here, we have the eyes that we saw on the second album cover. Down here, we have lyrics from the song mixed with the type treatment we saw earlier. And we're gonna add all the colors and textures that we saw on the first album cover on Illustrator and Photoshop. And hopefully our final product will look a whole lot better than this sketch. Alright, so now we're gonna open up Illustrator to set up our document. I'm gonna keep the size 8.5 by 11 because I think I'm gonna want to print this, and I also want to make this available for print for you guys. And from here, we're gonna change the color mode from RGB to CMYK so that it's safe for printing. And from there, we click Create. I already dropped my sketch and inspo photos onto my workspace so that I can use them for reference while I'm working. The first thing I'm going to do is set the color palette for my poster. The way I'm going to do this is by color picking off of the album covers and then tweaking them as I go. So now I have my colors picked, but I think I want the green and the red to be a bit more pastel. To do this, I'm going to go up here to Window and then click on Color Guide. The color guide gives you specific tints and shades of any color you pick. Alright, so now that I have my colors ready, I think I'm ready to start laying out my background and my text. For font choice, I'm going to need something with weight on it so that I can still draw on it and it'll still be legible. So I'm going to go with the typeface called Obviously, and I'm going to use the wide bold version. Now that I have my text formatted, I can start adding color. The way I'm going to do this is by color picking from the samples I got earlier and trying to make this look as fun and dynamic as I can. So this is looking really good so far, and the next step is to add the eyeballs. Now that we have the basic layout ready, we can drop this into Photoshop and start decorating it with textures and brushes. Adobe makes it super easy to jump from one workspace to another. We can just drag from Illustrator down to Photoshop. For this next bit, I'm going to be using my drawing tablet to hand draw over the text. For my brush, I'm going to be using a Kyle brush called Old Nib. If you don't know what a Kyle brush is, they come free with an Adobe subscription. They have a bunch of different brush packs for drawing, for painting, they have oils, halftones, and a bunch of different textures that you can download here. Cool, now that I have my brush picked out, I can start hand lettering. This is coming out really nicely, and now that we have that done, I can start adding textures. For textures, I'm going to be using brushes from True Grit Texture Supply, specifically their Dead Subtle and Fast Grit packs. If you're unfamiliar with True Grit Texture Supply, they make textures and brushes that are specifically used to make things look worn out or gritty. Right now, I'm pulling brushes from their free sample pack that you can download here. Alright, this is looking dope, but I still think it needs something, so we're going to move on to step 4. So after some pretty intense staring, I think I found 2 things that I want to change to this. The first thing that throws me off is that the eyes and the main text are like still crispy, when really we want it to look more worn out and kind of like the ink is bleeding out, you know? So I'm going to roughen up the edges by going to Filter, Distort, and Ripple. And just by doing that very simple step, we gave our main text and illustration a very unique texture. The second part that bothers me about the poster is that there's a lot of negative space. So I think what I'm going to do here is fill up the background with more handwriting. In the song, they say this line a few times back to back, so I'm just going to scatter it around the page. And now after so much sketching, staring, and editing, we finally reached the sixth and final step. Here is our final product, and I'm honestly very happy with it. I think I'm actually gonna go print it out like literally right now. You can also follow this link here to download the poster for print in black and white or color, or you can save it as your mobile or desktop wallpaper. I printed out the black and white version, colored it, and framed it. So if you do something similar, or if you make your own lyric poster, feel free to share it with me on Instagram by tagging @funes_design or by using the hashtag #TimeToGetIllustrated. As usual, feel free to comment any comments or tips based on the video, either for me or for other designers. And with that, till next time.